start out by taking the roll. I think we're only missing one person, so Madam Secretary, if you will take the roll.
Chairman Nieves,
Here.
Vice Chairman Shaw, Senators Lively,
Here.
Romine,
Here.
Sylvie, Olsman, Nasheed.
All right, we have a quorum, so we will get started. It was my intention to start with Senator Walsh's bill. Well, maybe we'll do the other one first. Typically, we will hear senators' bills who do not sit on the committee so that they can get on to other things before we hear one that's from our own committee. But since she's not here yet, I think we will go ahead and start with Senate Bill 618, which I am handling, so I will. Oh, there she is. Very good.
I apologize, Senator.
No problem. Well, we just wanted to extend you the courtesy of going first because we all have to be here anyway. And the next bill is by one of our very own committee members, so.
Thank you. They don't have a forum upstairs, so they'll appreciate that.
Very good. Well, Senator, we are going to ask you to go ahead and present Senate Bill 750. Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Senators. I'm Gina Walsh from the 13th Senatorial District, here to present for your consideration Senate Bill 750. Senate Bill 750 is the same bill you heard last year, which protects employees from being required to disclose personal usernames or passwords, prevents their employers from demanding them. It passed out of this committee and then passed out of the Senate 33-0. I'd also like to, do we have it? Do you have the substitute? I'd also like to present Senate Committee substitute for Senate Bill 750, which adds a 10th exemption to allow employees to, in cable companies, that is on behalf of the cable company group, they want to be able to ask for it. They want to be able to ask their employees in case of inclement weather or an emergency, and the employees are not required to give it, but it does allow the companies to ask for the information, just as another means of communication with their employees. That is the only change from last year. There are 10 exemptions, and I believe they are all on page,
Final 2 pages, I believe.
yes, of the substitute. I have it here, I just am not organized. I'm sorry?
He won't tell anybody.
Thank you, Senator. I don't know if there's anybody that can testify for the bill. There was somebody, but they're upstairs testifying on another bill.
Okay, well, why don't we start off with questions for you if there are.
That's great.
Are there questions for the sponsor?
I got one.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Senator.
On your employers are barred from discharging or otherwise penalizing an employee for refusing.
Where, I'm sorry, Senator, where are you looking?
On your committee substitute right in the front page.
Yeah, where, on the front page?
Yeah, third down.
Okay.
There's actually just going to be a question, but.
I just want to stay on the same page as you.
Hey, I like that. Good luck. Employers are barred from discharging or otherwise penalizing an employee for refusing to supply an email address. You know, emails are just getting about as important as a phone number and other ways of communicating. Is that something that you feel is?
I do. I don't want them asking for passwords, and we made an exemption. They can ask for,
It didn't say passwords, it said.
this is the password protection bill, and there's exemptions to allow them to ask for the email address.
Okay.
That's the 10th
Okay,
exemption.
well, I
It's
hadn't
on
had a chance to
page
read
5 of the sub.
Okay, that's my question.
Yeah, it's number 10.
Thank
The act shall not be construed to prohibit an employer from requesting an employee to provide an email address in order to conduct business-related communications. All we want to do here is prevent.
What page are you on?
I'm on page 5 of the sub, line, section 10.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, further questions for the sponsor, Senator Shaw?
So is there anything in here that would stop an employer from using a keylogger program on the employer's own equipment?
No. No. All this bill is doing is preventing that. There shouldn't be. We're not trying to prohibit the employer from, I don't know how to phrase this. If you're using, if I use my employer's computer, if I use my state computer up here, I conduct business vastly different than how I do on my personal iPad or my computer.
So if I were an employer and you were my employee, and I had a computer and I put a keylogger on there such that every keystroke that you made.
There's nothing in here that says you can't do that.
But
do
wait
you
just
have
a
a
second,
policy?
I want to finish my question.
Yeah.
So you come to the computer and you sign on to your whatever, your bank account. And by virtue of my having the keylogger, I get your password. It's my computer you're using. Am I violating this by getting your password without your knowledge?
I don't think so, Senator, but if we are, I'm willing to work with you on that because that's not the intent of the bill. You know, and I don't think
that
it's
would be
an.
kind of rotten to do that, but I just want to know.
Yeah, it would be kind of rotten. They won't get anything out of my bank account, but I don't want them looking at my Facebook page either. But there's a flip side to that. If you're at work, you shouldn't be using your employer's computer to access your personal business. And I'm not saying, I'm sure it happens all the time.
Yeah.
But that's what these are for, and that's what the iPads are for.
Other questions for the sponsor? I did have a question for you on that section that Senator Libla was talking about a minute ago. If we read the rest of that, it says, however, such address shall not be required to be provided by the employee or disclosed to any third party. So this number 10 was added, right?
It was added to allow the employers to ask, because the way the bill was drafted, they couldn't even ask for it.
Right.
Okay, it's drafted now to allow them to ask. Now, an employee isn't mandated to give up their email address. I've never had an employer ask me for my email address, but that could be by the nature of the work I did, I don't know.
Right.
But I know that my employers often asked for my personal cell phone number, which I did not give them, unless they wanted to pay that cell phone bill. Because they wanted to use that cell phone to conduct business with me during work hours, and it wasn't gonna, you can provide a pager or a work cell phone or whatever, but, and that's how I'm looking at that email address. It's a personal email address, and,
So
I
if
know
the
some
company-
people that don't access their emails for weeks.
Right. So I'm just, because as you know, I supported the bill last year, I support the bill
Absolutely.
this year.
No, actually, Senator, I think there was one no. You voted it out of committee and voted it no on the floor.
Well, that's support, isn't it?
Yeah, sort of. I asked you what you did that day, and you said you did not know.
Actually, I would explain all that
But
to
in
you,
all
there's
fairness,
somebody
I
there with
voted
the camera.
for
It's
one of
not
your
on a
gun bills
tripod,
by mistake as well.
I want to go into a full explanation because there's a video camera that's not, by the way, did you fill out one of those yellow
Yeah.
forms?
A yellow form? I think you were emailed.
No. Oh,
24
you
hours
must
ago.
not know the policy of this committee. In this committee, you don't even
Yeah.
have to ask permission. You don't have to have permission to video. You can video till your heart's content, as long as you're doing like what you have there.
Yes.
Which, did somebody tell you about that? Because you're the second person to have one of those.
Oh, well, yeah, that's
That's
one of my
that is
colleagues.
that's truly impressive. You
Yeah.
know, we said that you can't bring in cumbersome equipment, you can't use tripods, and look what shows up. necessity is the mother of invention.
Uncumbersome.
That's very good. So anyway, our policy in this committee, and I'll say this to everybody, the policy of this committee is that you don't have to come to me like a child and ask for permission to video. You can video to your heart's content, you just can't use any equipment that blocks other citizens from being able to see what's going on or becomes cumbersome. And so what we do require though is that you just fill out, is that those little yellow forms? So you just need to fill out one of those little yellow forms and then everything's fine. So is there anybody else secretly videotaping? All right. So anyway, if that camera was not rolling, I would tell you what happened with that. But since the camera's on, I'm not going to tell you.
Hers is off, mine's on.
All right, so anyway, I'm getting back to this bill. I'm just thinking from the standpoint of an employer, with the way that number 10 reads, if I as an employer tell my employees that I want them to have a company email that they're expected to check on a regular basis, would this get in the way of that?
No, I would be comfortable with that.
I mean, in its current wording, I mean, I'm a little concerned, because I actually, outside of this building, am an employer, and so I know that,
Right.
you know, we nowadays, we like to actually
But
use
most
emails.
employees, I would think, and I don't know, but do your employees like have jane.doe@nieves.com?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying,
Yeah,
if we require them
that's the
to
email
actually
they,
have,
you know, that would be the email I would think that they would use. If I had an email from an employer, that would be the one I would use as opposed to my personal email.
Well,
You know
maybe-
what, Senator, if it doesn't read right and you're not comfortable with it, I just want to make sure that an employer cannot access your personal information.
right,
Your
and I would-
personal passwords, your personal email addresses, your Facebook pages. So if
That'd be kinda
if you're not, yeah, well, people do it. I have an intern right now, he says he deactivated his Facebook page because he was applying to law schools. And he did not want them to be able to, however they do it, access whatever he had on Facebook. I asked him if he'd like to come down and testify, but I have him in the other hearing,
Right.
listening to Senator Nadal's bill.
Well, many people nowadays get in trouble for what's on their Facebook page.
Yes,
Okay.
they do.
Senator Loudon.
Maybe I don't understand this then. However, such address, we're not asking for a password, just your email address. And what about inclement weather and plants shutting down?
Well,
Something
if
comes up
you-
and people can't get to work, or you want to send a notice out to all your employees that, hey, we're gonna have to start for ice, we're gonna start 2 hours late. And is that asking for too much?
Well, that's what I said, if you provide a company email, I have friends.
Would you personally like to know that before you drive 22 miles?
That's done now. I know people that work for Boeing. Boeing does a phone call. All their employees, they hit a button and a phone call goes out in inclement weather that we are on a 2-hour delay or we're canceling shift 3 that day.
So where'd you get the phone number at?
Well, when you apply for the
Well,
job.
I don't, to me, having an email address on something is no different than having a phone number. A lot of people don't have landlines.
No, but they have cell phone numbers.
All right, I guess I'm just totally missing the whole thing here, so, okay, thank you.
So, Senator, I think one of the things that might be creating a little bit of confusion is I think you have absolute broad support on the idea of passwords and private information, et cetera, et cetera. Do you know, and I don't know the answer to
Well,
this,
and
is it,
if there's somebody in here from the cable industry, because this was put in here for them.
I can talk now if you like, I mean, I don't.
oh, well, maybe we'll hold our grilling,
Yeah, I'm more than happy to go to the
You
original
wouldn't mind those
language.
taken out, huh? Okay, any other questions for the sponsor? Okay, do you have anyone to call to speak in favor?
I don't know if Shannon Hawk is down from the other committee or not.
All right, well, what we can do is we can hold off on that particular witness. Is there
Okay.
anyone else to speak in favor? Anyone else to speak in favor? Okay, if your witness shows up before we close the, So you made a grand entrance as the sponsor of the bill, now
Thank
she's
you.
making a grand entrance as.
Not to sound
as the
sexist,
star
Senator,
witness.
but women are good at that.
Wow. Well, thank you very much. I really don't have that much to say. Shannon Hawk, I represent the Securities Industry and Financial Marketers Association. You heard this bill last year, and it did not contain language in it at the time that is required by the financial brokers and dealers. This bill has been in several, I'm out of breath from one.
I know, I did that too.
Can you move that mic a little closer to?
Thank you. This legislation has been passed in several other states. It is model legislation. And so we appreciate the section that was added at the end that takes care of the concerns that we have.
So the section that was added at the end has been the subject of our scrutiny so far. And so
Really?
we were gonna take our
Hang on,
concerns
hang on.
with a different entity, but we'll be glad.
No. You've added something else. I'm section 9. I'm the section right before the last section. Last year, I was the last section. Apparently, I am not the
We have
last
stuff,
section.
you are no longer in class.
Okay, I am section 9.
Well, then let's direct our attention to section 9.
Uh-oh. Hopefully not.
All right, did you have any other comments?
No.
Are there questions for this witness? All right, please fill out a witness form. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you, and thank you for waiting for me.
Is there anyone else to speak in favor of the bill? Anyone to speak in favor? Anyone to speak in opposition? Anyone in opposition? Anyone to speak for informational purposes only? Please introduce yourself to the committee. Be sure to leave a witness form and proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, dear old Dewey. I'm here representing the Missouri Cable Telecommunications Association. Although this is not a cable-specific issue, simply because we employ a lot of people. I could be representing any of my clients, because we all employ people. But it was cable that brought this to our attention, and I appreciate Senator Walsh being so gracious in working with us on this. Our concern was there's part of the bill that forbids an employer from asking for username, password, and other authentication information to get into the Facebook account. A lot of times, people use an email address as their username, which then would prevent the employer from saying, I need an email address, and they technically would be in violation of this law because that email address is also this person's username. So we wanted to seek some kind of language to allow an employer to ask for an email address, which is what the first half of number 10 there does. It allows any employer to ask for an email address for communication purposes. Maybe they want an alternate email address as well, because maybe the company email system has been hacked and they want to notify them to change their password to go in and do that sort of thing. So, and we certainly understand the protection of people's private information and their password. As an employer, I wouldn't want somebody's password. I wouldn't want that liability of knowing it and having it slip out to a third party. But having said that, I'm not sure if this is exactly the final way to solve that little issue, but I just wanted to let the committee know, and the Senator and I have been working on this, and appreciate that very much. Be happy to answer your question. Or be subject to the grilling, whichever you choose.
You want to go first? Yes.
May I make a comment before may I make a suggestion?
Certainly.
What if section 10 read, this act shall not be construed to prohibit an employer from requesting an employee to provide an email address in order to conduct business-related communications with the employee. However, and then strike, such address shall not be required to be provided by the employee. And then just keep in there the part, however, disclosed to any third party. So that the employer could still request it without getting the password. But I'd like the protection that the employer could not share the email with a third party.
Okay, so let me see if I have that wording. So just towards the end, business-related communications with the employee or disclosed to any third party?
I would say, like, pardon me, Senator, like, however, such address shall not be disclosed to any third party.
Right.
So you guys are agreeable to that?
I am.
Sounds reasonable to
Are there
me.
any questions from the committee?
I don't think the employers are wanting to spread somebody their employees.
Will you fix that and
Absolutely. We'll do another sub and get it to you.
sub to sub?
Thumbs up.
All right, very good. Are there any questions for this witness? All right, seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Anyone else to speak for informational purposes only? Please introduce yourself to the committee. Leave a witness form when you're finished.
Yes, Mr. Chair, for the record, my name is Ron Calzone of Missouri First. Among other things, we like to promote free market principles. And while I am very much in sympathy with the sentiments of this bill, that is protecting people's privacy, I want to make some suggestions about maybe a more of a free market approach to this. And I'm also an employer. I've been an employer for 30 some odd years. I think as an employer in a free society, I should be able to place just about any condition on employment I want to with new employees. However, if I try to change the conditions of employment midstream, I'm violating basically a contractual relationship. So I would suggest that if I want to require an employee to have an email address, have a cell phone, have a landline, have an airplane to work for me, then, and that's a condition of employment, if they accept that condition of employment, then everybody's happy. However, it would be inappropriate for me to say to an existing employee who's invested X number of years in my company, to say, now I'm requiring you to have a cell phone or an email address or whatever. So I think that there should be a distinction. If you like free market principles, if you like the principles of freedom of association, then you'll make a distinction between people who are entering into a new contract and people who are in an existing contract.
Questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Please leave a witness form. Anyone else to speak for informational purposes only? Seeing none, Senator, do you have any closing comments?
I do not.
All right, well, thank you. That will draw the hearing on Senate Bill 750 to a close. We will now move to Senate Bill 618, the bill that I am handling, so I will turn the committee over to my very able and astute Vice Chairman. Are you willing to take that responsibility?
Okay, Senator. This will open the hearing on Senate Bill 618. You may proceed whenever you are ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I hope you've had proper training on how to use that gavel. That's a dangerous tool.
I have to get it in while I have the chance, you know.
Well, thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, today is Rerun Tuesday. This is the second bill that we'll be hearing today that we had also heard last year and passed out of this committee last year, so I'm not going to take a whole lot of time to talk about it. It is in its exact same form as it was last year. There are no changes to the bill. This is a bill that addresses private property rights, what some people might refer to as Agenda 21 type material. Passed out of this committee last year, passed out of the Senate, and had great support on both sides of this building, both House and Senate, and so we just hope to find that same favor again this year. I do have some actual experts on this subject that I would like to defer to as much as possible, but I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have for me.
Are there any questions of the sponsor? Senator Nasheed,
You know, I hear a lot, Tim Clark.
please proceed.
I hear a lot about Agenda 21. And, you know, one person that talks about it a lot is Glenn Beck. The federal agents, they're going to come in and they're going to take your land, you know, all this conspiracy theory type stuff. But Senator, if you can just, I know it's a 300-page document, and I had the opportunity to look through what some of the recommendations from the different countries that work together to, you know, put the Agenda 21 together. But why do you feel a need, my question to you is, why do you feel a need to bring forth this particular piece of legislation? I mean, what are you trying to protect?
Well, first, let me say that I'm encouraged to hear that you listen to Glenn Beck. I am encouraged to hear it.
Breaks my nerves, John, you know that.
And I do listen to NPR from time to time. So, Senator, really, I think what's happening here, and I do want to be very clear, and I should have mentioned this in my opening comments. You know, the opposition to Agenda 21 is truly one of the most bipartisan things that I've seen in a long time. I just happened to pull up an organization. There's actually an organization called Democrats Against Agenda 21. And so I don't want people to think this is a partisan issue. This is the Agenda 21 project, or I don't even know really what to call it, whether you would call it a project, a movement, whatever, is something that came from the United Nations many years ago. Today, it has bipartisan opposition.
And bipartisan support.
And well, I guess there could be. I haven't heard a lot of support for it, but this is something that both a Republican president and a Democrat president, in my opinion, made a mistake on. Because this is something that Bush the Elder had participated in, and President Clinton participated in. I feel like they were both wrong. So there's bipartisan error, and now there's bipartisan support for
So,
making
you know,
citizens
that's, I
aware.
think, let's stay away from the rhetoric. So, the issue with the Agenda 21, because it basically is a sustainability comprehensive approach to, I guess, agriculture and poverty and things of that sort, where different countries throughout the world would would participate in trying to deal with the issues of things that impact human beings, like water, land, poverty, agriculture, transportation, all those things. I mean, it's a big piece of, I mean, it's a big bill. I don't call it a bill, 300-page recommendation. But I'm just trying to figure out, what is it that you are afraid of? What's the fear factor? I mean, why do you feel a need to say that we don't want Agenda 21 in the state of Missouri? What's behind it? I mean,
Sure,
outside of that, outside of the
There's no fear
outside of
factor involved here.
the conspiracy theories.
Yeah, well, there is nothing inside of a conspiracy theory, and there's nothing generated by fear. So I'm not sure how to answer the question when framed that way, because there's nothing in this bill that's generated by fear. This is simply.
So why don't you want them to? I mean, why don't you want Agenda 21? What's the problem with Agenda 21, where you don't think that the state of Missouri should have any dealings or any part of Agenda 21?
Sure. First of all, I believe that our communities should decide what's good for our communities within those communities. I feel like Missourians are smart enough to come up with good ideas. Now, I will tell you that if any entity in the state of Missouri wanted to adopt a policy that had to do with sustainability or land usage or anything like that, that was their own idea, this bill does not preclude them from doing it. This bill simply says that you are not going to take the lazy way out and just simply adopt things that are from Agenda 21.
I mean, but what if some of those things are good, and that would benefit the lives of many Missourians here in the state?
Then those entities can come up with those ideas on their own, rather than just grabbing an Agenda 21
So you just
policy.
don't like the feds?
Well, sometimes I like it.
Was the UN? Yeah.
No, I don't like the UN. That would be very accurate.
Well, that's what this is about. You don't like the UN.
No, that's not what this is about. It's just the fact that I don't like the UN.
Okay. All right.
Senator Nasheed, may I inquire of you for just a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, well, in the language of the bill, it basically says that no political subdivision will deliberately or inadvertently, and then this is the important language, it says, infringe or restrict private property rights without due process, as may be required by something stemming out of Agenda 21. Would you be in favor of anybody having somebody infringe or restrict private property rights without due process unless it's
Well, I
some,
don't think that that's, I mean, if you can show me some, in that 300-page document that that's what they're doing, then I would be against it. But
Okay,
I don't
then-
think that
then
that's
in that
what,
case-
I don't think that that's what Agenda 21 is trying, I think it's just a myth, it's a
well,
conspiracy.
if we could,
that-
if there were such a thing and it were shown to you, would you,
320 is about the
would you
last
be
of it.
interested in seeing something like that if it were shown to
I
you?
mean, if you can show me in the documents where, you know, the UN, they put together and implemented Agenda 21